those final 5, bringing all 33 Raptors online. After that, we'll see about a second later, and then it'll lift off, so a couple seconds from first light until motion. As usual, we can hold at T-minus 40 seconds if we have any last-minute issues to clear, anything with the range, anything that triggers on the vehicle. And if we pass T-minus 10 seconds, the deflector fires, and then we scrub, then we're done for the day for at least 24 hours. But weather is fantastic, light breeze, no clouds in the sky, not tracking any hardware constraints to launch today. If we're not able to get off the pad, though, we've got opportunities throughout the week, could be 24 to 48 hours later. But everything looking great. I'm excited to be able to see another one of these get off the pad. Check back in with everybody in just a couple of minutes. Back over to Jesse and Kate.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Now, you could see those 2 towers in the back there in the distance at Starbase. Starbase is really coming along just as rapidly as Starship itself. That second launch tower will be coming online this year, and it will allow us to increase our flight cadence and test even more frequently. And just a few kilometers away from the 2 towers, our cutting-edge 1 million square foot star factory is nearing completion with the goal of producing hundreds of ships a year.
Yeah, that might sound crazy, and that's because it is. If you can imagine a future where we are flying and catching a fleet of boosters, which is the lower portion of the vehicle, that fleet is actually pretty small compared to the potentially hundreds of ships, the uppermost portion of Starship, that will be flying in that future vision.
Yeah, exactly, Kate. Those ships will be staying in space for long-duration missions to go to the moon or Mars, or become tankers for refueling, or any number of other uses. But the boosters will come back and turn around to launch the next ship. So in order to hit that production cadence of hundreds per year, we're rapidly building out Star Factory, which is our Starship production facility in Texas.
And views of that Star Factory there. Now, this place allows us to move system integration work earlier in the build process, which means more efficiency, higher quality, and ultimately faster production. Starbase is an incable place to be right now. There really is nowhere else in the world like it. You know, hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Now, what you might be hinting at is the good news is we are hiring. If you love what you're seeing, check out our openings at Starbase. On the engineering side, we're looking for vehicle design engineers across structures, propulsion, and integration.
And if you're a hands-on tech, we're looking for integration technicians and welders that can help us hit our goal of building a Starship every 8 hours.
It's pretty clear
outside,
that, as you can see, those guys there.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need a lot of builders to get that down to just 8 hours.
Right? Now, beyond that, in order to keep Starbase growing, we have all kinds of roles, from baristas to HVAC technicians to EMTs. So chances are, if you're looking, we have a place for you. Visit spacex.com/careers to see all of our openings.
Every role is critical to the future of Starship. With Starbase growing faster than ever, we can't do it without you.
This place is where our future is being built, and that is a future that we are all very excited about. All right, let's dive deeper into the inner workings of Starship and learn more about this flying skyscraper.
I think they really want to catch
Starship
it again.
features 2 major parts, the ship, which has 6 Raptor engines, and the Super Heavy booster, which has 33 Raptor engines. And just like flights 1 through 6, the current iteration of Starship is an experimental vehicle flying for development. And with a few planned upgrades, Starship will have 3 times the thrust of Saturn V at 10,000 metric tons of thrust, plus the added benefit of full reusability. Starship 2 will be capable of carrying more than 100 tons to orbit, and Starship 3 will be able to lift more than 200 tons to orbit. Now, the amount of mass we're able to launch per rocket is crucial to creating a self-sustaining city on Mars.
Exactly. And speaking of launch mass, the upcoming flight test will launch a new generation ship with significant upgrades, attempt Starship's first payload deployment test, fly multiple re-entry experiments geared towards ship catch and reuse, and launch and return the Super Heavy booster. A block of planned upgrades to the Starship upper stage will debut on this flight test, bringing major improvements to reliability and performance. While in space, Starship will deploy 10 Starlink simulators, similar in size and weight to next-generation Starlink satellites, as the first exercise of a satellite deploy mission. The Starlink simulators will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship, with splashdown targeted in the Indian Ocean. A relight of a single Raptor engine while in space is also planned.
The flight test will include several experiments focused on ship return to launch site and catch. On Starship's upper stage, a significant number of tiles will be removed to stress test vulnerable areas across the vehicle. Multiple metallic tile options, including one with active cooling, will test alternative materials for protecting Starship during re-entry. On the sides of the vehicle, non-structural versions of ship catch fittings are installed to test the fitting's thermal performance, along with a smoothed and tapered edge of the tile line to address hot spots observed during re-entry on Starship's 6th flight test. The ship's re-entry profile is being designed to intentionally stress the structural limits of the flaps while at the point of maximum entry dynamic pressure. Finally, several radar sensors will be tested on the tower chopsticks with the goal of increasing accuracy when measuring distances between the chopsticks and a returning vehicle during catch.
We can start to see it.
Some additional size for context, you can see on your screen a Starlink Mini next to a banana for scale. And to get an even better sense of how big Starship is, let's take the average size banana next to the average size human, which is about 2 meters high. Towering over our average human is the length of the Millennium Falcon, which comes in at 35 meters. Our Falcon 9 rocket with the payload fairing attached is double the size of the Millennium Falcon at 70 meters, and nearly twice the size of that is the fully integrated Starship at 121 meters tall. The ship is about 50 meters, and the Super Heavy booster alone stands 71 meters tall. And we do have plans to make the ship and booster even taller in the future.
And yeah, it might be hard to imagine that because it's pretty big already.
Now,
Starship's first stage has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9. And as you can see on your screen, with 33 much larger Raptor engines.
And if you need to put that to scale, you figure like a 2-story building, like a residential building.
Now, moving up the rocket, the ship
figure
features
about
6 Raptor engines,
30 feet
3 sea levels,
per
and 3
story.
vacuum engines, which are optimized to operate in the vacuum of space.
Roughly.
The ship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface, like the surface of the moon, for example. This ship is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable a precision landing.
To reach full reusability, the ship must survive re-entry not just once, but multiple times. It took the teams at SpaceX about 3 years to develop the heat shield on Starship, and development for improvements is still ongoing. The ship's heat shield is composed of thousands of hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. The tiles are something we iterate on every flight test as we build towards a heat shield requiring no refurbishment between flights to unlock rapid reuse.
And the teams have actually already begun testing the heat shield tiles in environments simulating Mars atmospheric entry conditions, which we'll see more of in just a few minutes. You know, slightly different than coming back to Earth.
Just slightly different. Right there. And in between the first and second stages is our hot stage, which we saw in action on flights 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's recap that last flight to understand what we accomplished and how that's changing for today's flight.
On November 19, 2024, Starship Flight Test 6 marked a pivotal step forward in our pursuit of fully reusable spaceflight technology. Launching from SpaceX's Starbase facility in Boca Chica, Texas, this mission showcased remarkable advancements in engineering and innovation. The Super Heavy booster, designated Booster 13, powered the initial ascent with all 33 Raptor engines performing nominally. After stage separation, the booster was programmed for a return to the launch site for the much-anticipated Mechazilla catch. However, due to a loss of communication with the launch tower computer, the catch was aborted and the booster performed a controlled splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. This outcome, while not the original plan, provided critical data to refine our recovery systems for future missions. Meanwhile, the upper stage, Ship 31, achieved a significant milestone, successfully reigniting its Raptor engine in space for the first time. This capability is essential for orbital maneuvers and payload deployments in future missions. Ship 31 carried a playful and symbolic payload, a stuffed toy banana serving as the zero-gravity indicator, embodying the innovation and spirit of SpaceX's team.
Completing its trajectory, Ship 31 executed a controlled descent and splashdown in the Indian Ocean. The data gathered during re-entry and descent phases are invaluable for enhancing the vehicle's thermal protection and aerodynamics, Starship Flight Test 6 delivered critical insights into both stages' performances. The in-space engine reignition and booster recovery procedures are significant milestones that bring us closer to achieving a fully reusable spacecraft and enabling future missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond.
Starship's 6th flight test was one of our most ambitious yet, and as we work to demonstrate techniques fundamental to Starship and Super Heavy's fully and rapidly reusable design.
And I think I speak for all of us when I say that seeing the catch for the first time was an extraordinary moment for the entire SpaceX team. We've seen a lot of wild firsts here, but that was truly an epic moment in time.
Cool we're not forgetting that anytime soon. Certainly one in the history books. Now, today's mission profile is very similar to Flight 6, but there are some differences that we've incorporated as we prepare for future reuse. About 20 minutes from now, Super Heavy will ignite its 33 Raptor engines and lift off from Starbase. About 2.5 minutes into flight, the booster will separate from the ship in a hot stage separation, and we've seen that occur on multiple flights, including Flight 2, 3, 4, and 5. About 2 seconds after that burns, we'll jettison that hot stage. The booster will perform its flip and boost back maneuver. And we will once again look to return the booster to the launch site for a catch by the tower's chopstick arms. And once again, we will only attempt that if both the booster and tower are healthy after launch. We were successful last time, but we should emphasize that this process is still very new. And this is still just a test, so success is very far from guaranteed today. There's always a possibility that we'll lose the vehicle. It's a contingency that we always plan for.
Yeah, exactly. Now, while the booster is doing its job, the ship's 6 engines will remain lit for a few minutes before shutting down and then going into the coast phase. The ship will coast for a total of about 40 minutes or so, reaching a peak altitude of approximately 213 kilometers. Now, one additional objective for this flight during coast is an in-space burn using one of ship's Raptor engines. Doing a burn while in space will build confidence that we can do deorbit burns, which is a key capability for upcoming orbital missions. Now, after the coast phase, the ship will attempt a controlled re-entry, and if ship makes it all the way down, we'll once again perform a flip and landing burn before splashing down in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. Now, there are some notable changes to our entry plans for this flight, and they will intentionally push the ship to, and very likely beyond its limits. This includes several thermal protection upgrades and operational changes as we prepare for future ship catch and reuse. Today's flight test will also test new secondary thermal protection materials, and entire sections of the heat shield has actually been removed in certain areas. And on top of all of that, we're going to fly the ship at an aggressive angle of attack once it's moving slower than the speed of sound.
Now, this means we'll be flying nose down instead of our usual belly flop orientation during final descent. This will no doubt stress the limits of the flap's ability to maintain control, but it will be a chance to get real flight data on what our limits actually are.
So, to put it as bluntly as possible, do not be surprised if this is not a smooth flight to splashdown today. We are intentionally looking for how far we can push and discover the vehicle's true limits as we plan for future ship return and catch.
And even though ship recovery is not expected today, the telemetry and data we receive all the way to the end is what we're looking for and what will help us get to a rapidly reusable Starship of the future.
Now, just like Flight 6, one of our objectives for Flight 7 is attempting to return the booster to the launch site to be caught by the tower. The booster for this flight has upgrades to add redundancy across its propulsion system, increase the structural, as well as increasing the structural strength in a few spots. We've also implemented a few changes across both ship and tower to try and speed up the post-catch timeline. Returning vehicles to the launch site leverages the same hardware that we use for stacking ahead of flight, making our infrastructure multi-purpose. And in order for us to achieve that rapid reusability that we keep talking about, we need a quick turnaround. And you can't get much faster than returning the launch vehicle right back there to where it needs to launch from again.
Exactly. In this video, you can see our original render of booster catch alongside the actual footage of catch from Flight 5. This video is just mind-blowing to see the predicted versus reality. And just like the last flight for today's booster catch, there are thousands of criteria that need to be met in order to proceed with catch. Automated checks have to indicate we have a healthy booster and a healthy tower, and the flight director must issue a manual command, which is informed by manual checks from the flight control team. If this command is not sent prior to the completion of the boost back burn, or if automated health checks show unacceptable conditions with Super Heavy or the tower, the booster will default to a trajectory that takes it to a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico.
I remember when we first heard the call out that tower was go for catch on Flight 5, and wow, I still get goosebumps when I think about that moment. Now, for today's test, just like Flight 6, we're only going to catch if everything on the booster and the tower checks out after launch. As always, we accept no compromises when it comes to the safety of the public and our team. And so to that end, the area around the pad and the flight path are cleared in advance.
A lot of things have to go right in order to line up the booster catch. So if all criteria is met, we will attempt the catch, but there is a chance that we may not. Either way, we'll be getting tons of in-flight data, which is extremely valuable.
Exactly. That first catch was pretty epic, though. So like you, we'll be keeping our hopes high to see another one this afternoon. Now, Dan, you got to see it in person last time. Are you mentally prepared for a possible round 2?
I mean, probably not. That was pretty hands down the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the fact that we're going to do that every time now breaks my brain a little bit, but it was absolutely incredible. One of the unique aspects with Super Heavy coming back is it does generate a sonic boom. This is something commonly associated with reusable spacecraft. It's coming in faster than the speed of sound and then slowing down. It creates that pressure wave that builds up. And then when it reaches you on the ground, that rapid change in pressure is that quick thunderclap sound that you hear. Now, generally the only effect is that thunderclap sound. But if you're not expecting it, it's definitely going to get your attention. And we were able to hear it last time. The impact of, or how loud it is, changes pretty dramatically. And in this video, you can see as we were descending, and there was kind of that quick triple pop that you heard. Now that was picked up from closer to the pad. Most people at our distance and further away, you're only going to hear one or two as they're happening kind of so on top of each other that it might just sound like one big bang. But as I said, that's something that's only associated with spacecraft being reused. We hear it with Falcon 9. We heard it during Shuttle, and looking forward to hopefully hearing it today. Just a quick status check, though. We're about 85% full on ship, almost 2/3 of the way full on booster, continuing to count down about 13 and a half minutes, a little under that, until we lift off today. But still looking good. I'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes. Back over to Jesse and Kate.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think Dan said it really well when it really does hurt the brain to think that this is going to be the norm, that this is just the beginning. Every one of these flights is a step closer to a fully operational Starship that will take us beyond Earth orbit. And with our pace of rapid iteration here, the Moon and Mars are not nearly as far in the future as you may think. In fact, we're planning to send Starships to Mars as soon as 2026.
Which is when the next Mars transfer window opens, which is under 2 years from now. Now, you might be familiar with the Starlink logo, which you see there on your screen. It's an iconic representation of the Mars transfer orbit, also called the Hohmann transfer orbit. This transfer window, or the time between the time when Earth and Mars are closest to each other, opens every 26 months and is only open for about 2 to 3 months at a time for a vehicle with Starship's power.
Lining up a launch to Mars is similar to how we launch to the International Space Station, where we time the launches to match the station's orbit. If we didn't do this, we would need more propellant and more time to get there.
So the first opportunity we have to fly Starships to Mars, we plan to go for it. These first flight tests to Mars will be uncrewed and will test the reliability of landing in tech. If those landings go well, the first crewed flights will soon follow after that.
Right now, our flight tests are focused on proving out reusability of both Super Heavy and Starship. In 2025, we'll continue that focus while also potentially flying our first Starlink missions and demonstrate capabilities central to our role in taking astronauts to the moon as part of NASA's Artemis program. Starship will be used to land astronauts on the lunar surface on NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which will put the first humans on the moon since 1972.
One key capability will be the ability to refuel Starship on orbit, which you can see there on your screen, with a Starship prop tanker docked with a fuel depot. Next year, we're planning to test this capability capability by launching 2 Starships and having them meet up to transfer tons of cryogenic propellants. Now, when the time comes to land on the moon, Starship will link up with NASA's Orion spacecraft in lunar orbit, where astronauts will transfer over for their descent. Now, once on the lunar surface, they'll ride the elevator down in their Axiom EMU spacesuits from Axiom Space and leave the first footprints on the moon in more than half a century, kickstarting humanity's mission to establish a sustainable presence there. And coming soon to a moon base alpha near you, Starship Enterprise Edition.
That is so exciting, and all the advancements that are going to come in order to enable all of that. Now, our rapid iterative development approach has been the basis for all of SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including Falcon, Dragon, and Starlink. Today we're testing
I've always
hardware
wondered
and
about those
systems,
people that are
and
stuck
we
up there.
need to know
I mean,
how
I
to
know they're
perform
supposed to
under the
come.
most extreme conditions.
They're supposed to
What's
get
more
them
extreme
soon,
than
but
the
I
flight
wonder
environment?
what.
We'd much rather find the
If
bugs and limits
SpaceX
now
didn't
during
have
testing than later on when there's more on the line.
a solution or a way to
while we
go
do
and get
determine
them.
an acceptable level of technical risk on our vehicle and pad to learn as
Take a
fast
look.
as possible, we accept no compromises when it comes to the safety of the public or our team. So all of that to say, this is only the 7th of many future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational.
And we tend to do our testing out in the open, just like today. And that means people sometimes see when our hardware doesn't perform as we planned during that testing. And that's okay, because this is exactly what we are testing for, to physically see if hardware performance matches what we expect it to do or not. Even more with today's test flight, where we're purposefully pushing the ship
And they've been
beyond
there
its
for
limits.
7 months.
Starship development is also being
was in
aided
June.
by
They were
Starlink
supposed to be there for a
space-based
week.
connectivity. You might remember the Starlink panels that are incorporated into Starship, and you can see them there on your
did their
screen, those
first
rectangular
spacewalk,
panels on Starship's
today,
nose cone.
apparently.
Starlink brings us the epic views in space and on re-entry, and also helps deliver us critical flight data engineers need to continue development.
Yeah, Starlink continues to help us push the limits in space in the short term by providing great views and real-time data on our next few flights, particularly through re-entry, which spaceflight veterans know that is historically a period of blackout for all communications within spaceflight.
Outside of Starship, Starlink has helped people across the globe, particularly in rural and remote areas that have been underserved by traditional broadband internet.
Yeah, and soon Starship will deploy our next generation Starlink satellites, which will continue to increase our capability to
So when they were at
connect even
6
more
months
people
being
with
stuck,
high-speed internet all
then
around the
they
world
said,
and beyond.
we will get them in 2
As
months.
we continue to prepare for our next
And that
several flight
was
tests, we
a
recently
month ago.
performed a cryo-proof test of the Starship for Flight 8.
Yeah,
our
this was
first
December
operation with
5th
the
when they
vehicle
said
debuting a
2 more to
number
go.
of major milestones.
The
The ship has been
stuck
stretched,
astronauts hit 6 months
to
in
make
space,
room
just
for
2 more to
larger
go.
propellant tanks, increasing
So
the
I imagine
propellant capacity from 1,200 tons to 1,500 tons.
sometime in the
The
next
forward
4 to
flaps
6
also got a
weeks,
redesign.
they are
They
going to
have
get
shrunk
rescued.
in size, and they also shifted in location. And both of these things will help better protect them during entry heating while still providing
Yeah,
control.
this whole area,
There's
Boca
also a
Chica
wide
Beach,
range of upgrades that will make the vehicle more reliable,
is,
adding redundancy and the
I'm
ability
guessing
to
it's
operate
about
for longer durations
20
in space.
minutes from here, 20,
One
maybe
unique aspect
25,
of a trip
depending on
to
traffic.
Mars are the different
Because you
conditions
have to
ship
go
will
through
see when
town a
entering
little
the
bit
Martian
before you get
atmosphere.
to
Now, it's difficult to simulate
the
Mars's atmosphere when
the
re-entering
road,
on
which is more
Earth,
direct
so we've been
without
testing
the
a variety
lights or
of heat
anything.
shield materials inside a specialized plasma jet chamber at the University of Illinois
It's not far from here at
Urbana-Champaign,
all.
where we're
When
able
that
to
big
more
giant
closely
rocket
simulate Mars's
first launched a few
95%
months
carbon
ago, the
dioxide
big heavy
atmosphere.
one,
Aside from looking
that
awesome,
shook
this is
houses.
important testing. The intense heat of entry
Not
will
from
cause
there
the CO2
to
to break
an
down
hour
into its base
away, and
elements,
even beyond
exposing
that,
Starship to
houses and
atomic
windows were
oxygen,
shaking and
which
rattling.
increases surface heating and
That's
can
how
cause
strong
materials
that
to
crap is.
oxidize or start to break down. Spacecraft entering over Mars encountered more than twice the amount of atomic oxygen at their peak when compared to Earth, and that is certainly a unique challenge. As we continue to test, we'll learn more about what makes a great heat shield for Mars. All right, now that we're heading into the final minutes of the countdown, let's go back to Dan for the latest on the ground there at Starbase.
Hey, Kate,
South
afraid I have
Padre
nothing
Island,
but
right
good
up there,
news for
South Padre
you.
Island.
We have a go from
To the
our range
north.
safety team. We are a little over 90% full on ship, almost 85% full on booster. and not tracking any holds to an on-time liftoff. So we've got about 3 more minutes of prop load. As long as the range stays clear, we don't trip any other holds, we might blow right past that T-minus 40-second mark and lift off right at the top of our window at 4 p.m. Central. So toss it back to you guys one more time, but fun part about to start, we are, a little under 6 minutes away from launch.
All right, so we are continuing to progress now at 5 minutes and 43 seconds until liftoff. Now, once we pass the T-minus 40-second mark, a number of events are going to occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure, and the ship will go on to internal
your
power.
Body, because just being in space,
that, the quick disconnect, or what we call
just
the
for like a few weeks,
lockout, is removed.
they say when you get back, you can barely walk because your body has adjusted to not weighing anything. And then you come back to Earth and gravity's pulling you and you feel like you can't walk. It's so heavy. Not to mention that your muscles deteriorate, your bones deteriorate, and it'd be interesting to see how they are when they get back.
Teams would need to refill the deflector's water tanks as well as the propellant storage tanks over at the tank farm before we're able to make another attempt.
Yeah, right now
it is just so unbelievable that it's just been only a little over a month, and we are just a few minutes away from Flight 6. The crowd here is building up. We've got a much larger crowd here than
I know, Lisa.
Launching at 4 or 5 in the morning
as it
out
is
here. So very exciting to have an afternoon launch to have all the employees here.
Exactly. Now, just as a reminder, that T-minus 40-second hold, if we opt to use
it's like the space shuttle,
everything
back in,
is
was
still
it 85?
potentially go for launch. So nothing to be worried about there.
When Challenger
at that
exploded,
point, basically up until T-minus 40 seconds, all aboard.
We thought it was already safe.
This would allow the
maneuvers
team to
and
wait
launch
for
and take
final checkouts
off
to assess
and
propellant levels, engines,
a
avionics, vehicle
routine,
pressurization.
I think
range,
the rocket
weather.
booster was detaching
Occasionally we've
again.
had shrimp boats lingering in the past, but that doesn't sound like that is the case today.
Yeah, not today. No shrimp boats.
It's not like airplanes.
Everything so far is looking good. We're getting really excited here. Just a few minutes away. We're going to go back, send it over to Dan.
Generally speaking, no incident.
How's it going, Dan?
Thousands takeoffs and landings every day, every
great.
hour, every
Just
minute.
coming up on about 3.5 minutes away. So
until
we
it
should
gets
be
to
done
that
with our
point.
prop load on ship momentarily. Then about 30 seconds later, we'll close out on booster.
I would say if you risk yourself,
if you
on
board
accept the risk
in the
to
building
go up
just behind me, not
and
on
travel
board.
in space, go to Mars or whatever the
flight
moon.
control team in the building behind me,
You
they're
have
going
to
to
be
have a lot of
prepared
work to do
know
right
that.
after we lift off, as we still have a lot of manual
Spaceship could
checks that
explode
happen
on
the tower
on launch.
prior to the
You know,
flight director,
just so you know.
who's going to be Tristan Pierce again
I'm sure
today,
they have.
giving a manual
They'll have you
command
sign
to
all
bring the
kinds
booster
of
back to
waivers
the
and
launch site.
all
And
kinds of stuff, I'm sure.
the tower did just incredibly well on the last flight. We didn't lose any of our required redundancy for our catch. So we're hoping to see that again today. A lot of the team, really putting armor on the tower, making all of those things work, played a huge role in making that catch possible, and looking forward to hopefully seeing that happen again. And of course, sending our first payload to space. You can see the banana. It's
we're
very tightly secured, but I assure you it does have some room to float around. So once we're in a zero gravity environment, we should see our first Starship zero gravity indicator putting on a little bit of a show. And that's looking right in. That's where we're going to have Starlinks. That's our PEZ deployer. So getting its ride to space. So coming up on about 2.5 minutes, we are closing out on all of our prop load. Just heard that our fill drains are starting to close, so that means we're no longer going to be flowing propellant into the booster and the ship. We're going to do what's called pushbacks. So all of that propellant in the ground systems is going to get pushed back to the tanks, clear out everything around the pad right before we light those 33 engines and take off. Just quick reminder, you're going to see fire start at the bottom. You're going to see the deflector start at about 10 seconds before launch. Lots of water to help dissipate all that heat, all that sound. And then the engine's starting up in 3 different groups. And then about a second after T0, we should see liftoff.
A minute and a half.
About 2.5 minutes into the flight, a little bit longer, we'll see hot staging. And that's when we're going to be listening really close on those loops to see if we're going to be bringing the booster back for a catch today. Do always want to caution, it's never a guarantee. We've done this once. We'll see if we do it again. We're only going to do it if the booster and the tower are looking really good before we attempt to bring it back here.
Hey, there's my house. You can see it from there. No, you can't. I'm just kidding.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand on the brink of another monumental milestone in space exploration with Starship 7 poised for launch, we've encountered a brief but necessary pause in the countdown. Nothing major, just a surprise for everyone watching right now. It's moments like these that remind us space exploration is as much about innovation as it is about anticipation. Now, while the countdown is temporarily on hold, we have an extraordinary opportunity to bring you something unexpected, something only SpaceX and Elon Musk could make happen. Tonight, in celebration of this historic event and as part of our commitment to pushing boundaries, not just in space, but also in technology and finance, Elon Musk himself has prepared something special for you. A moment like this isn't just about watching history being made, it's about being part of it. This isn't just a rocket launch, it's a moment to redefine possibilities and reimagine the future. So, without further ado, let me introduce the man who continues to change the game across industries, inspiring millions.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is another one of those.
We've hit a temporary pause in the countdown to the launch of Starship 7. I know you're all excited, and so am I, but trust me, what we're about to share will make this moment even more memorable. Tonight is...
What's going on here?
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. The vehicle's pitching downrange. Booster chamber pressure is nominal.
All right, we're more than 30 seconds into flight. Telemetry showing 33 out of 33 engines as it's pitching downrange.
Booster, chip, avionics, power, and telemetry nominal.
Hearing good call-outs on the ship and booster avionics. You just heard the rumble hitting us about 6 miles away. Watching Starship arc into just endless blue skies right now.
Vehicle supersonic.
More than a minute into flight, the vehicle's supersonic.
All right, I can hear the rumbling outside now.
Max Q.
So we just passed through max Q. That's the greatest stress the vehicle's going to experience on the way uphill. Reminder that all of our teams down here on the ground are now looking at systems on the tower. They just did a manual check through. That's going to inform that manual flight director's decision.
What a gorgeous ascent.
6 ship engines getting ready to ignite.
Hey, Debbie.
That's going to happen while we're still attached.
We can still see the ship's engines from the ground.
Take myself up here, Chopper Man.
Got a little under 30 seconds away from that. We are hearing good call-outs on the tower preparedness from the manual checks. Reminder, though, we've still got automated checkouts on the booster and the ship itself. But as of right now, our manual checks and our manual commanding is looking go for a catch.
Booster engine cutoff.
That is incredible news. We just heard the call out for booster engine cutoff.
Engine startup.
Most engines cut off down to those middle 3.
All right, catch successfully. That's the one we're going to catch, I hope.
All right, hot stage confirmed. We've got a booster hopefully on its way back to us, and a ship now making its ascent burn into space. How's it going in Hawthorne, Jesse?
It's great over here. You can hear the crowd screaming for every milestone. The booster is now making its way back down to Earth. Looks like we have 12 of those 13 engines ignited. We're using the engines that actually gimbal.
We are go for booster return.
An excellent call out there. We are go for booster return.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Not like last time.
There's a lot of criteria that needed to line up to ensure that we could have a safe booster catch, and it sounds like we got the go for that. And there you can see on your screen,
you hear the booms outside.
we had we just jettisoned the hot stage. And there's a great,
a lot of low-level
excellent view there of the hot stage floating away from the super heavy booster. Now we've shut down the engines for that boost back burn. That confirms boost back burn is now complete. That was the first of 2 burns required for the vehicle to make its way back down to Earth. And next coming up will be the landing burn. That's going to be 13 of those center engines igniting again. And that will then go down from 13 down to 3 engines just right before we touch down for that booster catch. Now, reminder, our stage 1 objectives are to have a controlled ascent, stage separation, as well as a controlled boost back burn and hot stage as well. So we're looking good for that so far. Some great views there from the ship of Earth. That looks incredible. Now, Starship's ship is still firing its engines right now.
Starship trajectory.
The one on the left.
And great call outs.
The one that's
Starship trajectory is nominal. You can follow along the telemetry, the altitude in the bottom left-hand corner for the super heavy booster, as well as the bottom right-hand corner for the ship. And these views are just amazing. Again, the booster is currently making its way back to the tower today. So we're looking forward to a booster catch with the chopsticks. And in the meantime, you can see those grid fins there helping to control the vehicle and guide it back to its landing site.
Booster FTS is saved.
Now with that, we're going to hand it back. How's it going over there, Dan and Kate? How are you doing, Kate? Seeing that in person?
Dan had to take that entire segment because I couldn't talk. That was incredible.
There it is.
We can see the booster coming back in now through the plume. At least it looks that way to us. It's incredible that it basically returns. It looks like a speeding, just like this silver flare coming back to the. Once again, we are standing by for attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Booster
landing burn. Seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns with the tower for catch.
Booster coming in. Get ready for that boom, Kate.
Down to 3 engines.
Booster ready for trip.
Holy
Megazilla has caught the booster.
You heard it here. Megazilla has caught the booster.
Once again, for the second time, a successful catch by the launch tower. This is the same tower, the launch pad, where that booster took off from just 7.5 minutes ago. Great view from the chopstick arms, looking at those hypersonic grid fins that steer the booster for that precision landing. It almost looks like it's flapping its wings.
Yeah, you can see just how small that catch fitting is, too, on something that's just so massive.
That was absolutely insane.
Meanwhile,
we're not done, but wait, there's more. Wow, that is just absolutely stunning. And this, of course, a gorgeous view there from the tower looking down at the top of the booster.
All right, and we are tracking.
Now we're standing by for views from the ship, but who can take their eyes off of that incredible sight? That is once again the second catch of a booster back at the launch tower. It was incredible to see it come back down, just this silver flare in the sky. And we can still see the launch plume behind us, and wow, that we definitely I can't speak for you, Dan, but that was very moving for me.
Yeah, and right now you can see some of the telemetry on those ship engines has gone out, and we're waiting for an update on what our ship status is. We were approaching that ship engine cutoff time, so just waiting to hear. So obviously we've got booster back, booster on the launch tower in the chopstick arms, but we are waiting to get an update now on the ship. As we were expecting ship engine cutoff about 40 seconds ago. We saw some of those engines start to go out prior to that point. And so right now we are just standing by to try and get the latest word on where we are with ships. So stick with us for just a couple of minutes as we wait to hear some updates.
Now, if you just recently joined us, you might want to hit rewind and go back about 9-10 minutes ago to when Starship lifted off from the launch tower that you see there. We had a gorgeous ascent followed by a stage separation where the ship separated from the Super Heavy booster. The booster performed a flip maneuver and returned back to the Gulf Coast here. There you can see it on your screen. Obviously a successful catch back at the launch tower, which is something that we were all hoping to see and really couldn't ask for a more beautiful background with those blue skies and blue water there. As Dan said, we are standing by for an update on the ship that had ignited its engines and started making its way up to space. So standing by for more info on that. But wow, what an experience to see that take off and for that booster to come back. You can see it there up close on your screen to the place that it launched from. Once again, there were thousands of catch commit criteria, which is basically just all the things that we have to assess and evaluate and basically make sure that they are make sure that everything is clear and acceptable conditions, both on the vehicle side as well as the tower side, in order to enable that catch. So obviously from the last two flights that we have done, where Flight 6 we attempted but had to divert into the ocean, and then on Flight 5 we did have the first ever successful catch of the booster. We used the learnings of those two flights to hone in that catch commit criteria, and we saw success today, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And just a quick status check. So we currently do not have comms with the ship, so trying to figure out exactly when that happened and exactly what happened. So obviously the flight controllers right now going through their data, looking to make sure it's not anything instrumentation on the ship, but actually try and get us a status. So again, we're gonna keep listening in on this. We'll give you an update as soon as we have.
So they lost communications with the ship. That's what happened.
Back in the tower, waiting to find out a little bit more about stage 2.
I'm gonna switch to this feed here. See, that's scary crap. Imagine it's a rogue rocket. It's flying around right now. And they got no control over it. It's like, then what? Hmm. Yeah, see, now that's what I wonder. Now, it's is it gonna be, is it high enough that it's gonna is it like in orbit, or is it gonna crash down on somebody's house, or in a neighborhood or something like that, or is it actually gonna? I'm asking because if they got no control over it, no communication with it, that's to me that's the scary part. And usually, while they have communications, they've got a like an emergency abort, which means they hit the button and it just blows the thing up, emergency destruct. But if they can't communicate with it, do they not even have that capability? That's my question. Wonder how long it's got to sit there before they bring it down. So actually, those bigger little platform things didn't catch it. So these little things that catch it, big little rollers. You see that? Just to the right of center of the screen here. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving this or not, but Yeah, so it's a really tight landing location or configuration they got to do. Where's the rocket now?
I don't remember seeing that back in October, and just interested if if there was something missed, or perhaps it's the wind or something like that, and perhaps it's entirely expected, but I just don't remember seeing it back in October.
Yeah, those are both really good visual catches there. We definitely noticed that it had a little more swing to it this go around. I'm sure that is, as is the case with everything that's happened with this flight, something that SpaceX will certainly be looking at in great detail, especially with the engine as you saw it. Let's turn now to the not so great part of the flight, the apparent loss of the upper stage, as SpaceX is reporting that telemetry data was lost, and by all accounts, the upper stage was lost at some point as well. Obviously, we can't know with any definitive
I'm going to switch over
certainty
to
what caused
agenda-free
it to
radio.
go awry, but
Agenda-free.
I guess, remarking on
weren't getting data from the second stage. Jan-Eric Edvardson says the booster catch was amazing. I got goosebumps. Thank you, Jan-Eric Edvardson. Thank you also, Steve's Chapstick. And Kick Your Blank 31YT. Also, thank you, JD63. That's very kind of you, JD63, and Ethereal Planet, and Captain Jerry Donnelly. Yeah, the booster catch was amazing. It's the second time they've done it with Starship, I believe. But we'll see what we hear about. We're waiting to hear more from SpaceX about the second stage, which has been lost.
I wonder what happens now.
David Curley, who is a space journalist, says that all communications lost suggest the ship has been lost. Jackball TV says trial and error.
Oh, I see what they're saying. So they're saying that they think the ship blew up.
Our viewer says the booster catch is a huge accomplishment.
But I don't know. To me, I think it could still keep on flying. Maybe the communication part is the only part that that has malfunctioned.
And this was early.
I mean, does it necessarily mean that the whole thing just blew up and it's gone?
Go into orbit and fly for around an hour before coming back and making a controlled landing. But I mean, I think it made it about 6 minutes before communication was lost. I don't know I would have to go back and see, but by the time the booster landed, which I think was around 7 minutes in, I believe they had lost communication with the second stage. The Frozen North says, I'll go and check my backyard. I believe what they do also, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they intentionally, they know that failures can happen. So they take that into consideration when planning their flight path.
I hope so.
News in Action says this must be the only program where crashing is seen as progress. Mistakes happen.
Because that would suck. I mean, the rocket just becomes a paperweight and it's going to land on some poor neighborhood somewhere, and on the other side of the world. That would really suck.
You could see a world in which they have a failure where they're like, okay, that really is, we understand what happened, we can fix that easy. And you could see a world in which there's some other failure there where they're like, wow, that shouldn't happen. Is there some larger problem here? Beats me. It's beyond me to say what kind of failure we have here. Hold on.
Thanks, everyone, for continuing to stick around as we were checking in on the status of the ship. At this point in time, we can confirm that we did lose the ship. However, Starship, the total vehicle, did have an on-time liftoff at 4:37 p.m. Central Time from the launch pad just behind us at Starbase Texas. Gorgeous ascent and successful stage separation. The booster pushed the ship off, and the ship disconnected during that stage separation. The booster came back for a successful, the second ever booster catch at the launch tower, which was pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, it was great to see the booster come down, but we are obviously bummed out about ship. It looked like we lost contact with it a little under 8.5 minutes into flight. That's roughly when you start to get to that main engine cutoff. We obviously need to go through all the data. It's going to take some time. In the next hours, days, we're going to figure out exactly what happened, come back, fly the next one, get even farther.
Yeah, I think even if it blew up and they know it,
it's an experimental
they might not
vehicle.
just say it just yet.
So we'll figure out what ended
anyway,
up
I'm going to leave
today,
that
make sure it
right
doesn't end
there
our
for
day
now.
tomorrow.
We'll cut it off here.
As we do that, we're going to continue to provide you.
If we got some more, if I get some more
on SpaceX.com,
information on this, because I do have
as we learn
one of my other.
We'll be ready to share it.
There's another gentleman who does Facebook Lives. He's got a contact with SpaceX, and so I'm going to ask him if he's got any inside information on that.
Enable us to launch, and of course to our viewers for tuning in.
All right, guys, I'll be back with Manny behind the mic later on this evening. We'll see you then. Thanks for being here.